Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride as well are the two greatest co-hosts out there, Mitch Graw and Dean Chambers. How you doing, gentlemen?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Doing great, doing great. It was a rough week for a lot of teams this past weekend. I think the AFC West just got slaughtered, and we have a new nickname for one of the teams out in the West. We will mention that in a minute as we get going here, but we listened to you guys out there from all the comments, and we're going to go back to the format of both coaches going back and forth on it. You guys asked for it. We had to give it to you. Is that right, gentlemen? We aim to please.
Whatever the people want. This is election season, so whatever the people want.
That's right. Got to give them what they want. So we're going to jump right on into this right now, and we're going to kick off with the first game. First game that we're going to go through is Detroit went down to Oaktown, two of the rough cities out there, and surprisingly enough, Detroit happened to go out there and steal this one from Oakland, 22-19. We're going to kick this off with Dean. What happened to Oakland, Dean?
What happened is what I expected not to happen. You may remember last week I said I thought this would be the week when Oakland would make some changes in the offense and get the offense going again, and Oakland was not able to get ahead of Detroit and keep a lead in this game, and it was very competitive, it was very close, and at the end Detroit came out ahead. I noticed Detroit started a different quarterback who seemed to perform fairly well in this game, completing 22 out of 32 for 290 yards. So again, some weeks Detroit doesn't look very good, and other weeks they look very good.
Yeah, it's kind of like the tale of two cities. Who's going to show up? So we're going to go to the coach. Coach, what happened to What happened in Oaktown?
Well, if anyone really paid attention to the PNFL history, people would know that, back when I was in the NFC East and, I would play Detroit, typically we'd split the season series, and typically I would win in Detroit, and Detroit would win at my place. And so Detroit coming into my place and squeaking out a win, not necessarily a shocker, but I will tell you, it came down to three critical plays. One, Love fumbling the football inside of our own territory, leading directly to a Detroit score there that took advantage of that. And then a battle of the kickers. Detroit's kicker, 3 for 3 on field goals. My guy, the guy I signed off the scrap heap, 2 of 4 in his kicking, both in the rain. So can't blame the rain if the other team can make the field goals. And so, tight game. But you know what? On to Denver. So we're moving on.
There you go. Moving on. Next game on the
scrap heap was once one of the highest rated kickers.
Well, he was on the scrap heap is where I found him.
That's where you found him? Oh boy.
He was playing Australian League football, and I signed him back to the PNFL.
I think he used to be with Washington, if I remember right.
Oh, geez. Well, then no wonder he stinks. Oh,
well, you signed him.
Yeah, well, apparently I was I signed him in a fit of rage when I missed the field goal against you, Mark.
Exactly. So I guess you're gonna end up having to cut him again, toss him back out in the.
I'll cut my kickers until I can get one to make a field goal. So.
There you go.
The problem is they all suck.
They all stink.
Generally starts. So if my kicker goes in there and misses 3 out of 4 field goals, it's just the way it is. Preferably, I'd like to kick fewer field goals.
Yeah.
Picking on those poor little kickers. You guys ought to be ashamed of yourself picking on those guys. Moving on. Next up, we're going to flip this around the other way. Washington went down to Atlanta. And as I said, it was a rough week, especially for the triple boot, for the 3 men in the booth. This one, Washington took this one from Atlanta 21-7. We're going to start with you, Mitch. What happened in ATL?
Well, I'll tell you what didn't happen, and that was Justin Fields completing a pass. That did not
Ouch.
happen in this game. No, rough day for old Justin. For those who might not know, Justin Field is actually a native of the Atlanta area. In fact, he's from just a few miles away from where I'm sitting here recording this podcast. So he had a lot of family and friends at this game. I think he was a little bit nervous. They're hosting the Redskins with all the family and friends there. So not a good day for him. However, Washington, even though Washington held the ball for nearly 39 minutes, the player of the game was actually a Washington safety. So apparently, getting an interception with a 4-yard return is better than a running back running for 89 yards and a touchdown. I don't know what that's about, but anyway, Dean, what do you think here, man?
Well, in this game, what I was trying to do in the profile, I had it set to run middle 50% on first down, 5% pass short, and 45% pass medium. And the profile did do some running, and it certainly called lots of pass medium plays. And I don't know whether Jerry had expected that and put in some good pass coverage, but whatever the case was, very few of those pass plays were completed. So drives were not sustained. There was one scoring drive in the entire game, and that was it. Offense just was very ineffective.
Yeah,
I've done that similar profile, Deed. Trying to mimic the play action pass, kind of deal. And actually, I did that against Seattle a couple of weeks ago, and I had similar results where I didn't complete a whole lot of passes. The ones I did went for long yardage, but I lost that game too. So I don't know. What are you thinking, Mark?
I'm thinking that's the same thing. For me, from what I saw from the game, it just didn't seem like something that Dean would put out there. But I'm tip my hat to Washington. I mean, they had you locked down. I mean, it was 33% on third downs. Your passing complete 7 out of 21 for 33. Even your rushing was, I mean, he had you pretty much covered on both ends. 73 yards rushing as well. Fields his 3 carries was for -16. So it was just a rough day. I don't know. It could have been the profile, but I'm gonna think this is more of Washington just putting together a good game plan and stopping a good team.
That -16 is probably sacks on time passes, because I pretty much hardly ever have Fields actually running the ball.
What? Okay. I thought you would have had him out there running a little bit.
Yeah, those are likely sacks on time passes.
Okay. So we're gonna move on over, since we got your 2 games done. Let's go ahead and I'll take my beating as well. Seattle went to the Meadowlands to go out there, or the MetLife Stadium, to see if we could turn the tide a little bit. And we put up a good fight, but in the 4th, New York just kicked it into a high gear and ended up losing this, or the Seahawks ended up losing this one 31-17. So I'm going to start with Dean. What happened?
I think this is simple. Sean scouted you, and he came up with a game plan to get the job done, and he implemented it, and his players executed, and they won. And this was one of the weeks when the Giants played very well.
Yeah, the Giants definitely did show up. Dean, Mitch, next. I'm still rattling. Can't you tell? Mitch, what'd you see?
Well, it's interesting that the Giants were able to, win by 14, and yet were 2 of 12 on third down. But that's because they were basically perfect. They were 4 for 5 on fourth down conversion, so they weren't able to sustain some drives out there. This was the good Giants. Like we talked about in pre-show, the Giants are very unpredictable this year. They'll get killed 2 weeks, they'll kill people 2 weeks, then they'll die again, and then they'll resurrect again. And so I think every game with the Giants from now on is just a pick 'em. I have no idea.
Well, he should have died this week and then showed up the week after. So, all right, we're gonna move on from that. I'm running from this one while I can. Next game, Chicago went to New Orleans, another team that surprised people, and New Orleans ended up taking this game 14-9. Mitch, take the lead on this one.
Well, first you have to start, right, with the player of the game. This might be a first time in PNFL history. We need our statisticians here at the PNFL News check this out. But this might be the first time in PNFL history that a defensive tackle won player of the game. And, Christian Barmore obviously, was giving, Sam Darnold fits. He had 2 sacks in the game out there, wreaking havoc on 2 of the 6 sacks by New Orleans. Not very often you see a team that the defensive tackle wins a player of the week or player of the game. They get 175 yards passing, and they actually win the game. So, you know what? Take it and run with it. That's what I say.
There you go. Dean, you want to add to that?
Yes, you may remember last week I predicted this. I said that the Saints would pull off the upset, and I think you even said, "Oh, that's a bold prediction." And I just had a sense that that this would happen. That that the Saints would come into this game playing strong, and I think the biggest thing they did is they did very well in covering the Chicago passing game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Barmore apparently was in the backfield the entire game, so.
That will help. You pressure the quarterback into making bad throws, and the quarterback is going to throw a lot incomplete. He completed about half his pass. Darnold did, but
not for the big chunks that he normally does. His long was only 18 yards.
Was all that scoring on 3 field goals? Is that how he got 9 points?
Yeah. I think so.
So the other thing he was able to successfully do, the Saints, that is keep Chicago out of the end zone.
Yep. 3 for 3.
Yeah. It's funny because normally Sam Darnold's moving the ball down the field. Yeah, his longest completion was only 18 yards. So very conservative, very good. He didn't have time to look down the field thanks to Barmore.
Yep. So, okay, moving on. Next game that was on the list, we have Jacksonville going to Green Bay, and Green Bay staying strong, winning that game over Jacksonville 27-7. Mitch.
Tell you, Prescott, he's doing it all for the Packers. I think this is the second week in a row, obviously leading the team in passing since he's the quarterback, but second week in a row where he's led the team in rushing as well. So his back is probably sore from carrying this Green Bay offense. But to me, the story of the season for Green Bay is that defense. I mean, I think they lead the league, or they're next, second or something like that in interceptions. And, pass defense overall, I think they're second. So, again, one of those teams that, it's kind of sneaky this year, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think I predicted this game as well. So, moving on. Next one on the list is Minnesota. Again, like I said, the AFC West took a beating. Minnesota went to New England and New England showed up, winning this game 26-20. Dean.
I think this continues the momentum for New England, and if I remember it, I think I predicted this as well. And Minnesota keeps struggling, and it was a close game, but New England came out on top. And I would watch out for New England in future weeks. They may turn out to be fairly competitive this season after struggling the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah, it seems like they've gotten the car out of the off the side of the road, out of the ditch, and got it back onto the pavement. Mitch, you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, like I said in the pre-show, New England has gone from 0-4 is the season over 2 weeks ago to now they're one game out of the playoffs. And so, hey, if they can keep this offense moving like they have the last couple of weeks, they're gonna give that wild card a real show here the second half of the season.
Yeah, it's a very, very tight over in the AFC. There's teams are starting to show up and getting themselves straightened out. So it's going to be rather competitive as it goes down the line. So as we come to the final three games, we are going to start with let's start with Indianapolis going up against the Headless Horseman, otherwise known as Denver. And Denver ended up taking that game 35-28. Dean, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
Well, the interesting thing is this is the game in which Indianapolis finally did start Kyle Allen at quarterback. He threw 4 touchdown passes.
Yay!
Yay! Congratulations! Woohoo!
But Denver outscored him. Now, Denver had participated in some low-scoring games, and this game they come out and score 35 points.
Yeah, Trubisky put up 299 yards on him. So, go ahead, continue.
So they continue to be quite competitive. And what are they, 3-4 now, or 2 or 3-3?
4-2.
Yep, 4-2 right now. Yep.
2.
Yep.
Wow.
We're calling them the Headless Horsemen because they don't have a coach and they just keep on doing their thing. I fell victim to them, so I know what it's like to deal with the Headless Horseman. Mitch, your take?
Yeah, well, I just want to go back and just say, Coach Hoover, nice job starting Kyle. I think if you'd have done that 4 weeks ago, you'd have at least one more win, but I digress. It was an entertaining game. I think what hurt Indianapolis, even though they only lost one fumble, they did fumble the ball 3 times in that game. So that definitely kind of stunted some of their drives. But hey, as Coach Hooper said, hey, now I got to figure out how this defense thing works. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Next to last game from the week is the Battle of Los Angeles. You had Anaheim hosting LA, and Anaheim taking that one 28-21. Mitch, you're on lead.
I told y'all that this Anaheim team, Coach Smith and these Rams, you had a few shaky games there, but I remember last year, he got that offense rolling and had won multiple games of or player of the weeks with his quarterbacks. Well, he's done it now back-to-back weeks with Josh Dobbs, a quarterback that, quite frankly, people had kind of, forgotten about. They keep trying to cut him from their teams, but, he just kind of keeps resurfacing out there like a bad toe fungus. And so this week, 3 touchdowns, again, for Dobbs, another 33 yards rushing. And I would not be surprised at all if Anaheim gets a playoff berth this year. I think their offense, can do that. That's my thought. That's my take.
Okay, bold prediction on that one, Dean.
Well, I would have never imagined that Joshua Dobbs would be compared to a bad toe fungus.
Yeah, didn't expect that either.
Quarterback is continuing to do well, so he might have a really good season and might lead this team to the playoffs.
Hmm. Okay.
He's led a team to the Super Bowl before.
Yes. But
He's kind of like the Trent Dilfer of the PNFL.
oh, okay. So he basically just manages the game. Just don't lose it for us.
Yes, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, 79% completion, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's efficient, you know. So
Yep, definitely. So we are going to come. We're coming up to the last game, which, as we talked about it in pre-show, we're going to list this one as game of the week. New York Jets was hosting San Francisco, and it took them into overtime in the final minutes of the game. San Francisco went in and basically stole a win from the Jets, winning this one 23-17. I'm gonna flip a coin here, and I think we're gonna start this one off with Dean.
I think this is a game that none of the three of us expected. I remember predicting last week that the Jets were going to win and cover the spread. And I remember Mitch's comments about San Francisco last week. You basically said they weren't legit, that they had escaped from Atlanta with a game you said they shouldn't have won.
yeah, I think this was a lead pipe lock.
Surprised all of us.
Yeah, get a second mortgage, lead pipe lock right here. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened?
Every time you say those words, lead pipe lock, I would be hesitant to ever say those words again.
Whenever I have a lead pipe lock, that's a cue to go the other direction. Go the other way as fast as you can.
Run, people, run.
Yeah, those words are like a giant pepperoni pizza. You end up eating it.
Oh goodness!
So what did you see on this? What I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it going into overtime either. So
and if I remember right, the last couple seconds before overtime, San Francisco tried to get their field goal unit on the field to kick a field goal to win the game, and time ran out.
yep.
I don't know whether they didn't have a timeout left or what it was. But as I was watching the time, I still thought, even despite missing that chance to win that way, I thought the momentum was going to be on the side of San Francisco in the overtime. I think when you're a favorite team like that and the other team takes you to overtime, the other team is probably winning it. That is what happened. But they played most of the overtime period before that big pass play finally gained the last 6 points for San Francisco. And, I believe there were even 1 or 2 missed field goals in the overtime.
Right.
I thought it was going to end up being a tie at 17.
Yeah, it was looking that way. So, Mitch, what did you observe?
Well, what I observed was with 34 seconds to go in overtime, Joe Burrow, about fell over when he saw Edwards just standing there about 60 yards down the field by himself, and he was just happy he didn't overthrow the ball, I think. But I think I think Charlie, he's probably still doing celebrating that one. What an interesting game, because you take away that last play. I think it was about 70 yards or so on that, and the stats passing wise would have come out to be about the same. The high 280, 290 for the 49ers, and about the same for the Jets. But I tell you, where San Francisco really stepped it up this week, I thought, was in their rushing attack. Over 200 yards. Granted, they did go to overtime, but still 6.3 yards a carry. I had four backs that had over 30 yards rushing in that game. So the running 49ers are maybe coming back for a return.
Yeah, it looks like they're definitely popping up, and that's 2 wins for them back to back. So, uh,
And wouldn't you agree there, Dean, that when Charlie's team is able to establish the run, that's when Charlie's teams are the best.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember there were many seasons where Charlie would have one of his running backs leading the league in rushing. And I think he's kind of gone more pass oriented once Joe Burrow has been starting quarterback. But I think with a bit more focus on the running game like he did in this game, and the passing was still pretty good. I think that balance will make his team very competitive. I think we have to keep in mind. I don't know the exact stats, and someone does, but I believe Charlie, having been in the league as long as anyone is, I think he's like top three in wins, isn't he? I think maybe Rich and maybe Jerry. I'm not sure.
I think he's number one now. I think he's number one. I think Rich definitely has the highest winning percentage by a lot. But I think Charlie is finally number one in wins. So, yeah.
okay. All right, gentlemen. So that is wrapping up the week 6 games. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that opening segment. So we're going to move on to our middle portion of the show, going over our topic. Now, one of the things that we're going to go over for the topic today was something that was posted on the forum. And I'm going to have Dean go ahead and start this one off since was the one that posted it on the forum. Having a discussion about the defensive plays and the ruling that is requiring 3 men to be defending the line of scrimmage. I know that there had been some chatter going on back and forth, and I just want to kind of dig in a little bit deeper on this and kind of get get the other guys' impressions or ideas on this. So I'm just going ahead and let them get loose, but I'm going to go ahead and start with Dean. Where did this come from? Your thought process of it, and what is your for everyone out there, your thoughts on this with the 3 men on the line of scrimmage?
The issue itself is kind of outlined in what I posted, but I noticed the certain category of plays seem to be fairly effective against a lot of offenses. And again, you may notice in the post it was in the context of developing new defensive plays. Now, these particular plays have 3 defensive linemen all dropping into zone coverage. And they also happen to be in violation of the rules on having 3 men defending the line of scrimmage, but they were created before that rule was added to our rule book. So these plays are kind of grandfathered in. And I was raising the question about 2 questions, whether or not we should continue to allow these plays to still be in place, given that they don't comply with our current rules that do require the 3 defenders defending the line of scrimmage. And I think those rules were put in place to make our defensive plays more realistic. There's a certain degree in which our game, the PNFL is trying to be more realistic, and sometimes there's a bit of tension between doing what we think is more realistic and what is more effective in winning games on the field. And you notice that tension takes place in a lot of our discussions and debates about play design and rules about play design. And I think the issue that is interesting about these plays is, and I know some people have said that, well, 2 things I saw were said in the discussion, that there are some instances in the NFL where a defensive lineman, is dropping into pass coverage. Number 2, and this is something someone said, I hadn't thought of it this way. And again, I didn't design the initial versions of these kinds of plays, but someone mentioned that by dropping these defensive linemen into coverage, it's creating plays that are kind of like the 2 defensive line plays, but have 3 defensive lines starting in them, so they don't get put into the RNS folders, and they don't get subject to the limits where you can only use like 2 or 3 out of 6 of the, depending on the category of the RNS plays. So, that raises questions. Someone posted, well, maybe we should limit how many of these kinds of plays, again, the plays with the 3 defensive linemen dropping into pass coverage. But that would give Rich and Charlie another issue to be policing when looking at people's game plans and profiles. So I think maybe the one remaining question that we should probably consider in regard to these plays, while we think it may be realistic to a certain degree to maybe have a defensive lineman drop into pass coverage, is it really that realistic to have a play with 3 defensive linemen and all 3 of the defensive linemen are dropping into pass coverage? Because that's what these plays do. All 3 of the defensive linemen are in zones.
Yeah, but I don't think that if the defensive linemen are going to go into a zone, they really can't do any coverage. I mean, that's I don't know. Mitch, what's your view on this?
Yeah, well, and I guess I'll come from a different angle. As I remember, I guess it's been a couple of seasons, maybe 3 seasons, I can't remember, but where we were having a dialogue around, not necessarily in the same context, Dean, as you brought this up, but it was around those 2 defensive lineman plays and how this would all work, etc. And I remember that's where the whole, well, hey, all right, fine, it's not necessarily the number of linemen, but how many people are actually, defending the line, and so like you said here, in these cases, I think in a couple of plays that you had shared in the post, I want to say that I think the 3 defensive linemen drop out into coverage, but I think they have linebackers that are kind of blitzing from the far edges, in there. So technically they only have the 2. And here's the deal: I know that at the time the kind of the compromise was, okay, you know what, going forward, new plays coming through, you got to have the 3 linemen defending, which I think everybody probably agreed with that, because on a typical play you're not going to have just 1 or 2 people guarding the line. And so at this point I would say kind of leave them as is, since I wouldn't consider these plays an AI buster. Say like the slasher plays where you had the point zone that was in the box, which caused the player to be able to get between the lineman gaps faster than they normally would. I think one of the issues that I see with some of these situations is maybe in this case, well, I know those plays are tough against, there are certain plays that plays are really tough against, but I think Jerry pointed out, there are a lot of plays that do work against those defenses. I think where the issue comes in is that we end up having so many of the same type of play, whether it's that type of play approved in the play pool or those defensive plays where you've got the 2 outside linebackers that take a couple of steps in and then they run back to the numbers and do a spot zone. I think just about seems like half of the RM and RL plays are those. It seems like that are out there. So maybe maybe we could debate whether we should have those plays in or not because they don't match the new rule. But I think maybe a bigger debate should be: do we have too many of the same types of plays in the play pool, regardless of what play it is? Hopefully that makes sense. But anyway, that's where my thoughts are, Mark.
I think there's some degree of truth to that. Now, these plays, and this would maybe be a good issue to consider in the offseason, these plays of the 3 defensive linemen in zone coverage, they do have the 2 outside linebackers typically. Really, all would have to be done to make them compliant with the 3 defending the line of scrimmage rule is just to have one of those defensive linemen instead of in zone coverage defending the line of scrimmage. Just put one of those defensive linemen in either a pass rush or a run rush or something like that, and then they would be in compliance. And that might be a good thing to do perhaps in the off season, because I think it would mean that those plays would still be pretty effective, but they would be a bit more realistic in that they would be defending 3 men on the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
And the other thing I noted is, to the degree that they're more effective against certain plays, it does kind of stifle new play development, and that's why, excuse me, and that's why I raised the issue, because when you're working on new plays and your new plays always have to comply with all of the current rules, and this is why I think Charlie has, anytime he finds a play that, for example, has more than 3 bump and run defenders without the stop and wait, he revises it, because again, those are plays that end up statistically outperforming others, and then they get overused. So I think as much as possible, and we're probably not going to have that many rule changes of the sort, but when rules are changed like that, we probably have to, I know it's not easy to do that when you have a certain number of plays in the playbook that were designed under the old rules, but if the rule change is that important, I think probably the rule change should generally be retroactively, and again, this would be something to be done in an off season, applied to the old plays, especially if the old plays are that much more effective or they're unrealistic in ways that led to the rule changes that have been made. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I guess where exactly are these plays? I guess where I don't understand what are your arguments here is how these plays are hurting the creation of new defensive plays. How is it creating new defensive? Because granted, you won't use those old rules, right? But you can still create new plays.
Yeah, you can still create new plays, but when I'm creating a new play, it needs to be effective enough to basically replace something that I'm already using.
Okay.
Well, in this instance, when I look at my sim data, many of the plays that are in there that are getting effective numbers in the sim data are plays that are not legal under our current rules.
Okay.
So to displace an older play with a newer one that's more effective, which is what we always want to be doing in creating new plays. We don't want to just create new plays for the sake of creating new plays. We want to create new plays that are going to be useful, that will strengthen the playbook overall. Well, when you have plays that are kind of grandfathered in and would be illegal under our current rules, that they're submitted as new plays, those plays have a competitive advantage because they don't have to comply with some of the rules.
I gotcha. So it's tougher to create new plays that are more effective than some of these old plays, because the old plays aren't had to follow. Okay, I cannot follow you. Well, then the thing I'd say would be, maybe let's not worry about creating more defensive plays, and let's flood the offensive playbook with plays that beat that old defensive play, that people will stop using it because it sucks. So maybe that's the other way we could
I think
get that thing out of there
too, and I think that's happening as we speak, and I think at times that does happen. And for example, some of those 2 defensive line plays under the DN stuff, like 3 seasons ago, were absolutely dominating. They're still kind of effective now, but when I look at SimDat, I realize those plays aren't as effective as they used to be. So I think there's some truth to what you're saying that does take place. As we create some passing plays and maybe some running plays that do a better job of beating these plays, then maybe they won't. And that was part of the issue I raised also. Yeah. Because there's enough of these in run left, pass medium, and maybe even run middle, where someone can completely fill out their 6 plays per category with these things.
Yeah.
Probably not a good unbalanced.
I mean, between those and those linebacker two steps in and then run to the numbers. I mean, pretty much fill that out. Yeah. Anyway.
But those are fully compliant with the current rules, though.
Right. Yeah. Oh no. I understand. We have a lot of plays that the personnel might be a little different here and there, but as far as what they do, there's a lot of plays that do a lot of the same stuff, and I mean, I was, putting some things together for my game against Denver, this coming weekend, and just kind of looking through, and it's like, all right, so initially here, some of the plays that I might use, I'm like, well, crap, they all look the same, which against the computer team might not be that big of a deal because, I know they're going to, use what basically, what profile they're going to use for the most part. But, if you're playing a human team that is changing and scouting your team, and you use the same plays that over and over and over again, and they're going to kill you. The Jets in Chicago feast on teams that end up using plays that all act the same. So anyway,
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, we definitely dove into that one. So we're gonna go ahead and put a pin in this one. We may come back and revisit it as far as our time goes. So we're gonna move on to the next segment. Great topic, gentlemen. I commend you both on that, and I think this may open up a lot more discussions as far as with the coaches. So moving into week 7. Hopefully, there'll be better outcomes for the teams, for several teams this week. But we're going to start off with the Week 7 games. First one on the list is the Redskins taking on the Jaguars. I'm going to start this one off with Dean. Who are you picking on this one?
Every time I think that Washington is going to win and cover the spread, they win, but they don't cover the spread. And Jacksonville, say what you want about Jacksonville, but I wouldn't write them off entirely. Washington is going to win this game, but they're not going to cover the spread.
Okay, Mitch?
Yeah, that's where I was at, too. Washington will win, but Jags will keep it close.
Okay, I agree with that one as well. Next game, Falcons going to Detroit. We know what Detroit can do, and we know what's going on with Atlanta. So we're going to start this one off with you, Mitch. What do you think?
I'm actually looking forward to this game. Dean and James have kind of an under-the-radar brotherly rivalry, and I think both are going to really put some time into this one. I think the Lions will prevail, but I think it's going to be because of home field advantage. I think Dean's going to give him a. I'll put it this way: Justin Fields will complete more than 7 passes this week. That I can guarantee.
All right. What do you think, Dean?
I agree with all that, and what I'm concerned about is, even though the offense was terrible last week, I'm still not very confident in my defense. So, I mean, I would like to be able to predict that I'm going to win this game. I would like to win, but I think what Mitch is saying is probably, I would say that's probably a good bit of conventional wisdom, but we'll see. Anything can happen.
Okay. I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to put that faith in the Falcons. I'm going with the Falcons. It's a pick'em game. So, next one, Giants and the Colts. I'm going to start with you on this one, Dean. What do you think?
I think once again the Giants have been prepared to have a solid game plan. I think they're going to win this game and cover the spread.
Okay, Mitch.
Kyle Allen wins Player of the Week. Lead pipe lock. Colts.
Oh boy, here we go again. All right.
And you're going to be ready to eat that.
Yep, pretty much. All right, moving on. Packers and the Chargers. We're going to start with you on this one, Mitch.
All right. Well, the PNFL reporters have been up in Green Bay talking with that new coach. And the new coach is feeling pretty good so far. He's saying that he's going to get a playoff spot. But, the Chargers, Chargers, you never count them out. But I'm going with the Packers. I'm going to go with the Packers because I need the Chargers to lose.
There you go. Dean.
2 things real quick. I think officially, well, I wouldn't say officially, but I think the Chargers are headed toward a 10 loss season, and I think the new coach of the Packers is going to have one of the best rookie seasons of any new coach in the PNFL. I'm going with the Packers in this one too.
Okay. Next game, Rams and the Cardinals. Cardinals is a 14.5. We're going to start with, let's see, we're going to start with you on this one, Dean.
I think the Rams are going to continue to be pretty solid in defense, but this is Chicago after all. And I say the Cardinals win, but they do not cover the spread.
Okay, Dean. I mean, Mitch.
Yeah, come on there, JB.
Yeah. A little tongue tied. I'm looking ahead. I'm looking ahead on the list.
But Dean is right. I think the Cardinals rebound after that crushing loss to New Orleans, but the Rams, I can't be saying the Rams are going to make the playoffs if they don't show up well against Chicago. Rams keep it close, but Cardinals win.
Okay. I think Cardinals going to win on this one. I don't think they're going to get the spread. So I do pick the Cardinals on this one. So Saints at the 49ers. 49ers are 3.5 points. Mitch.
You know what? The 49ers have made believers out of me. If Charlie runs the football and plays Charlie football, 49ers win, cover the spread, whole 9 yards.
Okay. Dean?
I think Charlie will do that, and I know in the past sometimes Charlie's team has been good at winning or losing close games, and sometimes they pick San Francisco to win and they don't cover the spread. But this is a small spread. It's 3.5 points. 49ers are going to run the ball well, pass adequately, and maybe well, and win the game, and they will cover the 3.5 point spread.
I agree. I agree with the 49ers as well. Next game, Jets going to New England for the Patriots, 14.5 point spread. Dean?
I think in this game, the Jets are going to rebound after last week, and I think they're going to win and cover the spread. I mean, the Patriots will make a good showing and make an effort, but that's even though it's 14.5, Jets are going to win and cover the spread.
Okay. Mitch?
Patriots have the best uniforms in the PNFL. I predict rain in New England, and I predict the Jets win.
There you go. I agree with you on that one. Patriots.
The game, Atlanta would be undefeated.
Yeah. Okay. Next game. Vikings going to Seattle. Seahawks, 4.5 points. We are going to start with you on this one, Dean.
I think this is the week for the Seahawks to rebound and be solid on both sides of the ball, and I think Seattle will win and will cover the spread.
Okay, Mitch?
I don't know if either team's going to score enough to have a 4.5 point spread, but I think it's going to be a tough battle. The Vikings, even though they have not, won at the rate that we were expecting them to, they've continued to play defense. And I know that you love to play that smash mouth, a little bit more conservative style of offense. So I'm going to go with Seahawks at home, but I actually think it's going to be less than 4.5 points.
Okay. Last game on the list. It is the Broncos, or AKA the Headless Horsemen, going in to play the Raiders. Since normally alternated, I'm going to give Dean the second one to lead off because it is going against your team, Mitch. So, Dean, take the last one.
I think what we're seeing here is Denver's going to be tough. They've been tough every single game. The Raiders have struggled a bit on offense, and I think that will continue. And I think for the last couple of weeks I'm saying this is the week when the Raiders' offense is going to be much better, and then their offense still struggles. So I think the Raiders will win. It will be very close. It's going to be a tough game, and the spread will not be covered.
Okay, Mitch, what's your team going to do?
I think Dean might be on something there. I will tell y'all right now, flat out, I hate playing these CPU teams. I would much rather play a human team. I think it's because I don't want to lose to a computer team. But yeah, I mean it's these uncoached quote unquote Jerry defensive minded teams are always tough. And I'll win this game. Of course, I'm going to bet on myself to say I'm going to cover that spread, but I don't know if anyone else should do that. I'll just say that. So.
All right. Okay, gentlemen. So we are back. We've listened to you guys as we finish this up. We ran a little bit long today, but I think there was some good things that was discussed, especially in the middle segment. So as we go to wrap this episode up, this is This Week in the PNFL. Any other things, any other comments that either of my co-hosts have before we wrap this up?
I think it was a very interesting week last week, and I think it will be again this week.
All right. Anything you got over there, Mitch?
Let's get it.